Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com. Today we're going to be going off of kind of a continuation on the limit up, limit down video, and this is going to be going over stock halts and really what they mean. There are a ton of different stock halts, and kind of understanding what they mean can be a very important thing, right? It can tell you if there's actual strength behind there, if they're waiting for news, if there's a huge amount of volatility that they had to pause it for a little while. All of those things can play a part in what we're looking at. So what I'm talking about here is whenever a stock is moving around a lot, generally speaking, when we're talking about halts, it's because of volatility. And you'll see a stock swinging all over the place. It'll go flying up, massively over a short period of time, and then it gets halted. Now, we can see these halts if we look at the NASDAQ website, and we can see these halts pop up like this. So you'll see LUDP halt, right, in the reason code, or you have an M halt, or if we go down the list a little bit more, you'll see a T1, T3, or a T12. But what does all of this mean, right? What is an LUDP halt? So what we can do is we can go into the trade halt codes, and the halt codes give us a general idea of what the reasoning behind the halt is. Some halts can be for 5 minutes. Other halts can be for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or days at a time, depending on the halt code. So here we can see the most common one, T1 and T2, seeing those stacked up together, and that is news pending. So trading is essentially halted because they're pending a material news release, and that is going to be a big news announcement, usually, that can cause the market to shift around. And as we see here, T2 is that the news was released, and the news has begun the dissemination process through the regulation FD compliant methods. Basically what that means is the news, whatever the news happens to be, has been given off to regulators, and they're kind of sifting through it and making sure that it's compliant with everything, and as long as it is, then you're good to go. Now, another very, very common halt is T12, and that is right here, T12 halt, and that just means that there is additional information being requested by the NASDAQ. Trading is halted pending a receipt of additional information, and this usually is not a good thing. A T12 halt can be a real death blow to a stock. T12s usually happen when something crazy is happening, right? You have stocks that go from, basically $0 all the way up to $300 and then back down again. Those are the types of stocks that you've got to be very concerned about getting T12'd, and when it T12 halts, it can be months before they reopen up. A more recent example of this was a company called Longfin, LFIN. In Longfin, if we look at the bigger time frame here, let's go to a daily. This is what happens when you're looking at a T12. So if you look at this move up, obviously this looks pretty crazy. But if you look at the price scale, it gets worse, right? This was trading down at around the $5, $6 mark, all the way up at the peak. Mind you, this is 2 days later. All the way at the peak, it's trading in the 140s. That is a huge move. Now, I didn't get T12'd there, right? It pulled all the way back down, but you can see this amount of volatility is absolutely insane. You go from $5 up to 140, and then the very next day back down to 68, and then a low of around the 30s, and then a spike back up to 75, and then a drop all the way back down to 7. That's the kind of volatility that's just begging to get T12 halted. And you can see exactly where that T12 halt took place was right there. The stock market, or the NASDAQ in this case, T12 halted LFIN, and it halted it, if you look at the time scale at the bottom, basically from April to almost June, right? A big block of time where if you are holding shares of Longfin, there's nothing you can do. It's not trading. Trading is halted. And this is why T12s can be so scary, and why I tend to stay away from the markets that are going absolutely crazy like that, because a T12 becomes a very real potential. And you'll see what happened after the T12 when it finally opened back up, right? If we look at the prices here, it was trading at the $28, $29 mark. When it opened up from the T12, it was at $5. So essentially, if you're holding it, you cannot do anything, and it opens up and you've lost 70% of the value. You can see why it makes people a little bit nervous when the T12 might be looming around the corner. So that is what a T12 halt is, and that is the kind of implication of a T12. It can be very scary when you're talking about those potential moves, and not something that you necessarily want to get caught up in. So you got to be very careful with those. Another very common halt is an LUDP halt, which is right here, and that is a volatility trading pause. This is the most common one that you're going to see pop up, and it's based off of just huge swings, very big movement, and it's usually unidirectional. So it'll be on an LUDP halt because it's just flying higher. We'll see if there are any that are open right now that are getting halted. So the most recent one was ALJJ. That one's not a good example of it. WINS, no. BRQS, I want to see if they have a good example of a volatility halt here. PSTR, no, these are kind of bad for volatility halts today. TMSR, well, this is a good example visually at least. So this is a volatility halt, an LUDP volatility halt, and usually these halts are for 5 to 10 minutes, meaning that the market pauses for 5 minutes, and then after 5 minutes to the second, it opens back up, or sometimes an extended 10 minutes, and then it opens up there, but it usually goes in 5-minute increments. So if you're looking at a stock and it goes into an LUDP halt, then you have a situation where you're probably going to be waiting for 5 minutes. If it doesn't open up, then it's going to be 10 minutes. If it doesn't open up, it's going to be 15. You get the idea. But generally speaking, they are short-term halts. And it's just because of a really, really big increase in a very short period of time. You can see this is up 24.6%. It's no wonder that it got volatility halted because, well, it went from $1.46 to $1.82 over the course of a few minutes. That is a big deal, right? That's a big LUDP halt. Now, another one is an M halt, and that is another volatility-based halt. But if we scroll down, let's find the M. There we go. Right here. So the M volatility trading pause. This is trading that has been paused by an exchange-listed issue. Sometimes it'll give the market category code C. But this is another volatility halt that usually lasts 5 to 10 minutes. But the big thing to keep in mind here is that it's one that is generally a little bit... what's the best way to put it? Official, I guess. You usually see these. A lot more in bigger names, right? So if you have Facebook that's going absolutely crazy, those will tend to be more of an M volatility pause than your standard LUDP. LUDPs are usually the ones you're going to see more on the penny stocks or cheaper stocks. You don't tend to see those on the bigger names. So that's kind of how I categorize them personally. LUDP usually means that it's on the cheaper end. M usually means that it's on the higher end. That's not a blanket statement, though. That's just a kind of generalization. Now, as you can see, there are a ton of halt codes, but those are the most common ones. T1, T2, T12, and M, and LUDP. Now, if you are looking for the, maybe some oddball code that showed up, I mean, for the most part, you almost never get them. It's usually LUDP, M, T1, T3, or T12. Those are the most common ones that you end up seeing. Now, you'll notice T1, T2, that's when we're waiting for the news, but where's T3? Right? Where did that go? Well, if you scroll down a little bit further, there's T3. Now, T3 is just the news that usually comes with it. So you'll see T1, 2, 3 usually stacked up together. And T3 is the news and resumption time. So this is where you're getting the information that, it's going to be opening up at X time. And that's when T3 starts coming out. So the news has been fully disseminated through the regulation FD compliant methods, or the NASDAQ has determined either that the system misuse or malfunction that caused extraordinary market activity will no longer have a material effect on the market for the security, or that system misuse or malfunction is not the cause of extraordinary market activity, or the NASDAQ has determined the conditions which led to a halt in the exchange-traded fund are no longer present. 2 times will be displayed. The first time is when the market participants can enter quotes, followed by the second time, and the second time is the time the security will be released for trading. All trade halts have resumption times, and they'll be posted in hour, minute, and second format. So basically, it's just saying that T1, T2, they were waiting for news, then news came out. T3, now we have times that we can start trading it again. So you usually see those stacked up together. But those are the most common ones that you're going to see when you're talking about halt codes. But if you do need the list of halt codes, this is a phenomenal resource for it. It's NASDAQtrader.com/trader.aspx?ID equals trade halt codes. The link will be right there, and I'll also post a link in the description for you. That's going to go over all of the halts. This is a phenomenal website to have up if you trade stocks at all, because you'll see when the stocks halt. Most charting platforms have this built into it, but maybe you're not a big stock trader. Maybe these aren't really something you pay too much attention to, but you just want to keep an eye on things. This is a great resource to use because this will essentially show you all the halts that are going on. It saves a little bit of a step. So that's going to do it for this one. I hope you found it useful, interesting, entertaining, maybe something you can add to your tool belt, or maybe something that's already been in your tool belt, but you just didn't know what the codes meant. One way or another, though, hopefully you found it useful. Of course, underneath the video, click on the thumbs up button so we know that you like the content. Underneath that, subscribe to the channel so you're notified every time one of these videos comes out in your subscriber feed. And to make sure you don't miss anything, click the notification bell icon, ring that bell so you know when all of the videos come out and you never miss anything important. That's going to do it for this one. Hopefully you had a fantastic day of trading, and we'll see you all in the next one. Thanks.